Well, I'm Andy. I'm the Chief Technology Officer for ANS. Thanks for people giving up the next half an hour to come and join us on this quick webinar that ANS are hosting in conjunction with Microsoft. Just a quick one on sort of the last month, really. It's been an incredibly busy month for many people, as you can imagine. And the last month has been busy for the technical team at ANS. We have built lots and lots of little applications on the Power Platform that are helping organisations with responding to some of the COVID challenges. We've got applications out in the NHS, we've got applications out in local and regional government, and we've now started to get requests through from higher education, certainly considering the Microsoft announcement a couple of weeks back of some of the licensing offers that they're very kindly going to take us through. So this afternoon, this next half an hour, we split into two parts, if that's okay. The first part is going to be delivered by Microsoft, who are going to run us over a couple of the Microsoft announcements and what you can use and how. And then the second half was taking some feedback from some customers last week from a survey that we did. And we built a couple of power apps, one in particular we're going to show you, that can potentially help based off a theme, a recurring theme that was coming from some of our customers in the higher education sector. We'd love some feedback. You can post things in the chat, absolutely 100%. That would be great. We'll leave an email address at the end. But the power apps we're building are there, free to use. We've got a team working on these, helping all sorts of organisations at the minute, and would love to help higher education solve some of the challenges that they're going through at the minute as well. So I would love it if somebody, I appreciate I've just spent a couple of minutes talking, could somebody just pop on the chat that they can hear me okay and that there's no issues? Anybody, any of the ANS crew? Yep, wonderful, thank you. Chat all the way through is totally fine. We'll answer any questions that we've got throughout the chat. I'm going to be handing over to a couple of people as we go through it. So first off, Vanessa, Microsoft, are you there?
Yes, hello everyone.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. And where are you broadcasting from?
I'm based in Reading, so
Reading.
Close to VP office.
Wonderful. Well, I'm going to hand to Vanessa. So Vanessa, if you can introduce yourself and take it away from there. You may want to request control from Nathan just because a couple of your slides are at the start.
Yes, of course. So I'm a technical specialist in higher education and looking after the business application solutions at Microsoft in higher education. So I introduce the solutions to our customers, gather requirements, and make sure that our technologies provide as much as value as possible. I work alongside Elliot, which you might know, and he's a specialist as well. So we together look after the education accounts and make sure that you get as much as help and value as possible out of the technologies available. So let me share my screen with you on the slides that I have. Is everyone able to see the slides?
All good, Vanessa?
Yeah, perfect. So first of all, thank you so much for ANS for organizing this session. We have made some amazing offers available to respond to the crisis really quickly, and it's great to see our partners implementing them to make sure that organizations respond to the outbreak as efficiently as possible. So as you might imagine, the business applications team is currently working very closely with organizations in the front line, and I would like to talk you through our offers and some examples to make sure you understand what's available to you. So a couple of weeks ago, Alyssa Taylor, who is the Business Applications Corporate Vice President in the US, announced that we are making a bunch of business technologies free for organizations in certain sectors. The offers available are summarized on my next. So from a Power Platform perspective, we are offering Power Apps, Power Automate, Power Virtual Agents, Power Apps portals free of charge for 6 months. And if you need Power BI Pro and RPA, which is Robotic Process Automation, the latest family member of the Power Platform, this will be evaluated on a case-by-case basis. We are also offering Dynamics 365 customer service, including omnichannel for free for 6 months, and we get automatic approval for 200 users, and we have an escalation process for over 200. We also provide remote assist for free, which is a bit of our HoloLens scenario. For example, if there is an issue in a building, let's say in a student accommodation, If there's a shortage of staff, someone could go there and use the remote assist feature in the HoloLens and get the help as well as the guidance that they need in a virtual space. So the industries are covered at the bottom, but as you can see, education is covered in all of them. So these offers are available for you to use anytime you want to be able to respond to this crisis. I would also like to present to you a few examples for you to make sure that you understand these offerings as well as what these scenarios might look like in the education space. And as part of these offerings, we have a few templates and scenarios available. So the first one is a crisis communication application. It uses the Power Platform technologies, including Power Apps, Power Automate, and Power BI. The purpose of this application is for your crisis management team to share relevant and updated information on the crisis as well as the university. But at the same time, for users such as staff or students to share their working status or make requests. This information is then rolled out to Power BI dashboard, where you can have a 360-degree view of both staff and student status. We also had the idea of implementing this application on Teams, so it's in a familiar space if you're already using it, and it could be accessed very easily. And it also comes with an admin application where you can basically publish information and content that is relevant to you and tailored to you. The second use case is a virtual agent. So this is essentially a chatbot. It allows to basically help people within your organization, students or staff, to have access to FAQs or have their questions answered instantly 24/7. But you should also not forget that this chatbot is part of the Power Platform family, so it has dashboards embedded, so you can have trends and visual representations of what student requests are, what are their problems, and at the same time from your staff perspective. But also you can implement Power Automate so that you make sure that your chatbot speaks to your case management system. So Power Automate, whenever a request is made through a chatbot, could create a case on the back end in your case management system. And this could be the customer service app that we have in Dynamics. And the last example of a use case is essentially that case management that I have just mentioned. So Dynamics for Customer Service allows you to have a business process flow, which is a managed solution where you have step-by-step guidance on how you can solve an issue or a case and make sure that it's approved. And we have an example here of financial hardship supporting case. So I have put here some resources that we could share with you later on, where you can consume the content at your own pace on how you can basically deploy these solutions. And these were basically our offers and examples. And this was one way of doing things. There are other ways of doing it, which is why we have ANS here to present us a more focused solution on higher education. And I'm going to hand over to Nathan to present on how these solutions could be adapted to higher education and how to best respond to this crisis based on your needs and use cases.
Brilliant. Thank you, Vanessa. Nathan.
Hi, good afternoon.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good. So to everyone on the call, Nathan's the ANS Chief Engineer, and his team have worked busy over the weekend to take a couple of customer requirements that came through last week, which was for a particular use case, and turn that into a working solution. So Nathan's going to talk us through very briefly that solution, and you're going to do us a quick demo, aren't you, mate? That's
correct, yeah.
Wonderful, go for it.
So I'm going to start off wrong slide deck. Okay, so I'm going to start off looking at, so Andy's mentioned we're trying to identify how students are engaging now they're working remotely. We've come up with a number of ways of doing this, but I wanted to kind of speak more generally about it. So trying to identify users that are low engaging is we've got a number of options. There's things like online learning platforms. Maybe we've got progress reports and logging type data. There's applications that people are using that, as long as we've got login data or usage data. Systems like Office 365 that present activity data reports, and then Microsoft Teams activity data. So after going out and surveying some of the higher education customers last week, some of the feedback we had was that they're now using Teams to present remote lectures, and being able to understand some of that Teams data and maybe identify whether users are engaging or not will be really useful. So we've in the last week we've started to dig into that and to have a look at how maybe we could utilize some of that data. So Teams provides activity reports. These activity reports are aggregated views of data over a 7-day, 30-day, or 90-day period. And they dig in quite deeply, and they give us a really good kind of view of what that user has been doing in the last period of time. So we can get information like things like team chat messages. So the number of messages that a user has posted into a Teams chat channel. We can get private messages between users. So the number of private messages going on, calls that they've participated in, the number of online meetings that have happened, and we can also get things like the last activity data as well. So there's a lot of useful information that we can get directly from Teams that gives us an indication of how that user's engaging and how active they are. The Teams data though is limited in some ways, that it doesn't give us a lot of information about the user's identity. So this can make it quite challenging, that if we want to try and match that Teams data to maybe some student records data out of another system, then it would be quite challenging just to match the Teams kind of user ID back to that other system. So what we've also done is looked at how we can enrich that Teams data to make it more useful and then make it easier for us to match a student in another system. So we use Azure AD to do that. And Azure AD has kind of a number of different areas. So we've got things like identity, which is kind of first name, last name, username, and email address. So email address is quite a useful one for us. We can also have other data that might be stored in Azure AD, such as the job info for things, job title, department, managers, and then things like contact information. So we've got street address, and a more useful one maybe is something like mobile phone details if it's in there. All of this information then helps us to build a kind of more user-centric set of data that we can then use that information to match against maybe a third-party system containing student records. So once we've identified a method for getting the data, we then need to look at how we can utilize that data and present it out, and that's where the Power Platform comes in. So the Power Platform, is a suite of tools. We have Power Apps, which allow us to build kind of low-code, no-code applications. We've got Power Automate, which is great for building automated business processes, but also it's quite useful when we want to do data kind of wrangling, data manipulation, and data processing as well. And then finally, we've got Power BI to present some of that data back as visualizations, reports, and dashboards. And the other kind of fundamental piece for the Power Platform is the Common Data Service. But this is a cloud-scale database that we can use to secure data for these business applications. And the Common Data Service itself has a number of other features that are very useful to us. So we can use it to actually import the data from third-party systems. So this could be things like Azure Data Lakes, it could be SaaS applications, and there's a number of different ways. It could be on-premises data, and there's a number of different ways of getting this data in and getting it into the Common Data Service, which then makes it available to our Power Platform tools. So our Power Apps, our Power Automate, and our Power BI. So what we've done is utilize the Power Platform to get our engagement data, and then use the tools within there to be able to process that data and turn it into something more useful as an application. And you can see on the left-hand side, we've got something called data flow, which allows us to query external systems and pull data in. and we're using those data flows to get our student records data. In our case, it's fabricated data. It's JSON documents that hold thousands of records. And then we use Teams activity data and Azure AD, and we pull all of that information into the common data service, and we create contact records for our students. Once we've got that data in there, we then use some other functionality that's kind of built into the CDS, which is something called business rules. Business rules allow us to do calculations and logic on the data and build fields based off that. So we use business rules to look at that Teams activity data, and our rule's quite simple. It can be tuned, it can be manipulated to however you want it to work. But in our case, we just ask that if we've got any chat messages that are 5 or below, calls that are 5 or below, meetings that are 5 below, and private chat messages that are 5 below. So we take those metrics, we identify any students that fall into that category, and then we flag them as having low engagement. What then that allows us to do is to run Power Automate flows. Now, these flows are workflows that can be built in a GUI. They're quite easy to use. And again, we've built a set of workflows, but these can be manipulated and changed to your exact requirements. So we use Power Automate flows that every time a user is flagged with low engagement in the common data service, a flow runs. This flow then sends an email to the user, which I'll show you in a minute on the demo, asking them to engage with us, asking them to provide some further information. Do they need any kind of help? We also use the flows to process these requests for help and convert them into tasks that then can be placed into a queue and enable then somebody to pick those up and maybe help that student with their particular needs. The other thing that we're able to do with the common data service and the Power Platform is we can hook external systems into that. And we can do this via Power Automate flows and kind of web hooks into those flows. And for the demo, we've actually hooked in a chatbot as well. So the benefit of using something like a chatbot is we're able to leverage things like artificial intelligence to understand users' intents. So by looking at what the user's saying, we can now understand, is that user in financial distress? Is that user maybe got some kind of medical issue? And we can also use it to categorize the data and then again feed that back into the Power Platform, and these become tasks. So what I'll do next is I'll move on to the actual demo itself.
Yeah, thanks for that, Nathan. So basically everything that we've got here, Nathan, is completely configurable. We've just taken some arbitrary figures based on the bit of feedback of what we think. But technically this is a template and we can change whatever metric we like. But we built all the flows, we built all the integrations, we built all the dashboards.
Exactly, yeah. It's a starting point. It's configurable. It can be manipulated to work in the, to meet your kind of process requirements.
Yeah, we'd love some feedback, wouldn't we, from everyone to just see if there's any bits that we can set. We've set some categories and things, but
yeah, exactly.
We'd love to know a bit more. It was based off a theme that some customers came with and said that now we've moved remotely, we really want to know what and I believe there's some more Teams data coming out from Microsoft have published, I think it was a blog post that says more of the metrics that Teams can produce be available via the API. I think we're stuck to those 5 at the minute.
Yeah, so in the future, and hopefully it's not in the too distant future, and we'll also be able to get things like attendance in kind of the chat meetings. So when we're hosting a meeting, we'll be able to find out, did an attendee actually attend that meeting, which
that's
I think is
valuable,
going to be really powerful when that comes out. Unfortunately, it's not there yet. So we're stuck with the kind of 5 metrics that we have at the moment.
But we can do a lot with those 5 metrics, right?
Yeah, of course we can.
Go for it.
Okay.
So take it away on the demo, mate.
Okay, so let's just come on that. Oops. Okay, can everyone see that?
Yeah.
Andy?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, so like I said, we've got a Power application, so we've imported all that data, and then what we're able to do is build model-driven applications that are based on that data we've ingested. And this is what we've got. So we have the ability to identify students that are low engaging and then highlight those students into lists that we can then target, we can look at. The system itself automatically categorizes them as low engaging. And once they're flagged, they will then appear in kind of a filtered view of low engaging students. And we can see the kind of metrics there as well around them. So we can see the call counts and the meeting counts, what their last activity date was. We can also, if we wish, we can go in there and we can see kind of the all students records, or even we've got an engaging students view, the reverse of that. So once a student's been flagged as being low engaging, like I said, we create a request, and that request is really just reaching out to that student to say, look, do you need some help? Do you need some assistance with something? And the way we do that at the moment is we send them an email. So if I just pull that up, bear with me. Okay. So as we can see, our student here, Holden Hain, has been flagged as being low engaging. So we sent out an email to that student. This could also be something like an SMS. It could be, that could also be configured within the flow or integrated into the flow if we wanted to. But we're asking that student to complete a form, which if we just click this, all being well. And the form's quite a basic form, and it's just asking them for a bit further information. And it might be that they turn around and say, actually, I'm not experiencing any issues. And if they do, then we'll just close that request off and kind of unflag them.
And that's all templated, isn't it, Nathan? We can change that form. It's simple. It's just a bit of an example of what you can do. Yeah.
Exactly. We've just come up with some sort of sample categories. These can be expanded, or they can be shrink. They can be manipulated to however you want them to be. So we'll just go that we've got an accommodation issue for this user. Whoops. I've learned to spell. Okay. Okay.
Capitals there, man.
It's okay. Okay, so the request has now been processed. So if we go back to the board and refresh it, what should happen? Excuse me. So that's now disappeared. And that request has now been converted into a task that goes into somebody's queue. So we can now see at the bottom of the queue here, we've got Holden Hain again, we've got the accommodation issue, we've got some information there. These tasks, when the users or the students provided further feedback, can then be filtered into different queues. So different people could own the different types of tasks we've created. So I don't know if you've got maybe somebody, an accommodation manager, then they could go in and they could manage that queue. We've obviously got other queues in there, financial queues. So these can be configured again however we want them to be. It just gives us a way of managing those tasks that are coming from the students. The other thing we have is we didn't want that when if a student doesn't respond to a task because maybe they can't access email or something, is for that student to be forgotten. So we also look for requests that have been open for a period of time. I think we use 7 days, but that could be any period of time that you wanted it to be. And those also get flagged. So they get flagged into a separate queue that says we've had no response. And that's really just there so that if you if you don't get any response out of them, maybe you then want to maybe try a different method of communicating with them. Maybe you want to call them or something like that. So those students aren't forgotten about. They just come into a different queue for someone to look at. So that's kind of the application. The other thing that we've got within the application as well is a number of dashboards. So we've got dashboards on low engagement, so we can see at a very high level. We've got 12 students that are not engaging and nearly 2,000 that are. We can see the number of requests that are currently open, so students that are not responding to the request, and then we can look at the kind of the issues that we've got open, and we can expand that out. So we can see a high level kind of dashboard view of where the issues are. We've also got some other sample ones in there, so we can see the actual overall Teams data as well for that 7-day period, the total number of chat messages that has happened in that period, and the calls and things as well. And then finally, the other thing is we looked at what other methods we might want to pull data into the system. So we also integrated a chatbot. So if I just go back to tasks, show that, and down here, we've used Power Apps portals as well. So that's how we're completing the forms. And within our Power Apps portal, we've just added a chat widget. This is using BaseBot, which ANS is, again, we've got it on our GitHub. It's there for free if you want to use it. And I'm just going to send it a message. Okay, oops. Okay, so the bot's triggered that I'm having difficulty paying my rent. So it's now going to go into a flow where it asks me a few questions, and it's then able to raise a task off the back of that. So I'm going to tell it I am having problems. Okay, it needs to identify who I am. This could be it could be Azure integrated, so we'll be able to identify the users up front. In this case, it's not, so we're actually asking for a piece of information so we can find that user within our contacts database. So I'm just going to put a username in there. Okay. Can't pay my rent. Okay. So what that should have done now in the background is actually raise a task on behalf of that user. So if we refresh, if I've spelt the email address correctly, that is.
Probably not, but it pops into that flow, doesn't it, Nathan?
Yeah, basically, it should appear in that list.
Yeah.
Hopefully, it will appear there in a minute or two.
Yeah, it'll take a second. So.
Yeah. Okay.
But effectively, what we're demonstrating there is, we can use a free bot framework that we have in our Git repo. Any sort of integrations really that we can get. I think the purpose really of this. Thanks for that, Nath.
Okay.
I think the purpose really was how do we get some, value at the minute out of, the offer that Microsoft has put out there, and how can we solve some of the problems that we've certainly been hearing are out there. We'd love to hear more. We've got a team that's been doing this now for a month, just dedicated to helping customers in various environments, whether it's volunteering, whether it's nurses and doctors that are, having some challenges. We've got all sorts of things running out live. Some of them have made the national press. So we'd love to get the sort of same impact in higher education. We're looking to build them. You can have them for free. It's totally fine. We'll do all the hard work. But that was sort of one of the use cases that you can see there that the team have built over the weekend. If there's anything more, please let us know. We can make the platform sort of bend and do whatever we need to do really, but that was in response to certainly a customer that had that exact issue with moving the whole university onto Teams, and how do we sort of get an idea of engagement. So we're right on time there, right on 4 o'clock, so I'm keen to keep the time. I know people have got 4 o'clock meetings and whatnot, so I'd like to thank absolutely everybody. We've got a quick Q&A though. There's been some in the right hand side, so 3 or 4 people have asked some licensing questions, which just for ease really, instead of typing it all out, I'll send something round just after this to just confirm some of that. It's just easier than individually responding. I can do it in one. So we'll sort that out. I hope it was of value. We'd absolutely love, some feedback. We appreciate that everything that you see in that might not be categorized right. The flow might not be right. Totally get it. But fundamentally, there's a lot of work going into the data integrations, the templates and everything by the teams there. So I'd like to thank, the guys at Microsoft. I'd like to thank the marketing team at ANS for putting this on. I'd like to thank the customers for coming on, and also the office of the CTO at ANS for working around the clock in helping customers with things like this. So that's really kind of everyone. So thank you. And we're right on the Right, on the money there. So 4 o'clock. I wish everybody well. I hope you're safe and well, and your family and friends are safe and well. Please, just a quick one. I'll put it into the thing actually, but andy.barrow@ans.co.uk if anybody's got any follow-up. I think octo@ans.co.uk.
Yeah,
Your manager.
I think it's CTO-office.
Yeah, okay. So with CTO-office, send some things through there. More than happy to make modifications. And if you'd like us to deploy it for you, to try whatever, we'll absolutely do that. Anything that we can help at the minute is wonderful. So let's take advantage of what's out there and let's see if we can help. So thank you very much, everyone. Have a nice afternoon. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.